the More Than Words podcast. We are the Aunties of Inclusion. I am Liz.
And I'm Shara. Listen, we're so excited to be here. You missed a really good conversation we were just about to have, which is, do you read your own captions when you put captions on your meetings? We were laughing and almost forgot to hit record. But listen, I hope you're at the same space that we are, which is like, we are here, we are present and accounted for. How about you, Liz?
Well, my captions are in Spanish, so I'm reading it in Spanish and I'm speaking in English, and then I kind of change the words up. So that's how my week's going. How's yours?
So good. Listen,
and also I have this like real twang, guys. Like my Texas is really coming out. I think it's because I've been like submerged.
We going with it. We're present
in Spanish. So like I've been facilitating in Spanish, I've been coaching in Spanish, and I'm trying to be very, very intentional on learning Spanish. I know Spanish, but speaking casually is very different than if you speak like in a webinar or a facilitation and you're speaking to an organization. So that's where I am at right now. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to dream in Spanish too. So
how different is that dream? Like, look, tell us all.
Well, like when I was in EG and I would spend 28 days like basically speaking in Spanish. The only time I would speak English is when, we were all having dinner and we were out after work.
Right.
But 12 hours a day, I was speaking in Spanish. And so I started dreaming in Spanish and I was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if that's a thing, but it was definitely a thing for me. That was definitely my experience.
First of all, let me just go on record. See, this is that whole piece of being like from America when you be like, how many languages you speak? The one, right? Like it's just the one. The one that's available. Shouldn't be the case because we are melting pot, right? But the laziness of our availability of languages is here and present. So when I was in EG, I had so much fun because in my mind, I was speaking perfect Spanish, and I know for a fact I was not. But because I was just confident in the space, everybody speaking Spanish and they just dealing with whatever words come out of my mouth, I'm sure, I just felt like, yes, I was just fluent. And then when I got it back from EG, I was like, so y'all really don't know what I'm saying? And they were just indulging me.
No, but Shara, you know a lot of Spanish. You really like shocked me when you were talking to somebody in Spanish. You're like,
yes. Listen, it depends on how many cervezas I got because I'm very fluent depending on the number of. But if I don't have any, it is definitely like the bouncy ball of Spanish, like the little tingo, like just real bad, real elementary. Okay. Okay, let's not. Listen, I have questions. Let's not digress. But
let's get into our auntie moment. What you got today?
Yes, the auntie moment for me. So y'all, if y'all don't know about the auntie moment, we usually highlight something from our clients, or we highlight something that has personally happened to us that we want to share. But it's really about something daring or exciting or just random, just quite honestly random. But something we want to share with y'all. So listen, my auntie moment is really a PSA. Okay. I have noticed that my clients, so shout out to the clients, Liz and our clients who work with us. Love y'all, but I'm about to tell your business. Just 2 seconds. Just give me 2 seconds of business telling. Y'all tired. Just listen. Take the time.
We're tired.
Y'all tired. Okay. Y'all are trying to put pieces together, do that last minute dash to the end of the year. Listen, y'all tired. Y'all need to figure out what your rest and restoration process is going to be over the next few months. And I have said it. I have used the coaching questions. I have used every skill to tell you that it's time to rest because the things you're trying to work on cannot come to fruition without it. And listen, I'm going to go on record to tell you that I'm tired too. And I know how much energy it takes for me to be present with you in that time that we have together. Or if those of you who, see me speaking in events or whatever the case may be, like I plan my rest so that I can show up fully for you and turn on the thing that you expect from me. However, y'all tired. Listen, think about what rest means to you and what it is that you need right now. And it's not just sleep. Some of it is creativity. Some of it is separating yourself from the mundane routine. Some of it is just, y'all need some adult coloring books. Like just go chill. Go have a good time. But I want to throw that out there. If you need permission, if you need somebody to tell you it's okay to go lay down, use your PTO, use your vacation days, use your sick days with integrity, because, I'm not just saying throw that out there because that, words mean stuff. But I'm just saying it's time to rest and plan your vacations accordingly. And it doesn't have to be just sleep, because sleep is not always enough for restoration.
Sure. Thank you so much for that reminder, because I think right before we got on this call, we were talking about how I'm tired. October was a really rough month. For those that are our followers, we keep getting messages about when are y'all coming out with a new episode? Yeah, we didn't have the capacity and something had to go in the back burner for a little bit, but we're back. And we're resting too, though. But yeah, no, I think it's really busy. And I think there's a lot of pressure for the end of the year to be busy, to not sit. And I think I saw somewhere how it's critical for your own growth and development and your own mindset to have that period of rest. We cannot perform at 100% of the time. And what are you afraid that's going to happen if you did rest? What are you afraid that's going to happen if you did say, thank you for inviting me to XYZ, that I'm not going to be able to make it, or I'm not going to be able to do that?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. I think it's our fears of what's going to happen. There's that FOMO. There's a pressure to be present in all aspects, but we're forgetting about being present with ourselves. And that's one of the things that I'm really trying to hone in with my own kids. My oldest kid is an amazing, kind person. But what I told him, I said, it's great that you're kind and that you show this amazing presence with all your friends and your teachers. But what about for yourself? What about the kindness that you're showing for yourself and the being present for yourself? And he didn't get it. He was like, okay, Minecraft. But
yeah, he was like, hey, what? Anyway. Thanks for this Minecraft, pep talk.
Roblox, Super Mario.
Like what? Okay. Video games. Thanks, Mom.
And I said it for myself too. And I, a lot of my clients, many of my coaching clients are women. They're caregivers. They're leaders in organizations. They're going through career transitions. A lot of them, I have a big of entrepreneurs is the season of women, female entrepreneurs, which is great. I love it. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a female Latina woman-owned business. But we cannot be everything for everyone. And I think not just our society has told us that in some aspects, in some regards, cultures. I mean, I've seen my tias and my mom. We've talked about this multiple times, how they are there for everyone. I have a tia who has a son that isn't doing so well. And so, in our household, we do not put our family members in homes. We don't put them in retirement homes. We don't put them in care homes at all. And we take on the caregiving of those family members, the being their advocates from a health perspective. We take that on. But what happens when it's beyond our capability?
Yeah.
And it's like, we've had to walk my tia, and even us, like every single one of us feels guilty. We're like trying to figure out, how do we all take a week or take, in some kind of form or shape. And I'm like, how am I going to do it? I'm in the UK,
Yes.
But again, it's like, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's a community. But at one point, there has to be a line. At one
Sure.
point, it becomes like, okay, this isn't our ministry. This isn't a part of our capabilities. We have to do something different. There has to be a different solution to this. So
For
thank you
sure.
for bringing that up. And I think it's so
Yeah.
critical, especially as we get into this season. Mental well-being is a big subject. And I don't think people are taking it as serious, as they're seeing it more like a flyaway comment. Do you remember we had
Mhm.
the big thing about girl power?
Yeah.
And you would see like at
Everywhere.
Michael's, you would see
Yeah.
all the journals and everything about, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
you. So I feel like that's happening with mental
For
well-being.
sure.
But the
Self-care.
problem,
Self-care is being overused in that way.
self-care is being overused, and
As a phrase, but not an
that's
action.
right.
Right.
But it's a real thing. And we are facing a loneliness epidemic.
For sure.
We are surrounded by communication, but people are feeling more and more lonely.
Yeah.
And this time of year, even if you have a family, even if you don't, wherever you are at in your life, it can be a tough part of the year.
Yeah.
So I even see
I
it
would
in
have.
my mom group, how we all look like we just like got out of battle every morning. Every morning we walk into the school and we're like, we look like we just got out of battle with our kids.
Yeah.
Take time to take care of yourself. Reach out to a friend. Go. I intentionally had cups of coffee, not just because I had to eat the coffee.
About to say,
Yeah.
Liz, don't try to throw that in there because that ain't got nothing to do. Go, y'all heard that. Y'all heard it too. Y'all know how
I
she
had
do.
the
Don't throw that in there.
coffee, like the cups, the multiples. No, I purposely had very intentional conversations.
Yeah.
With women in our community.
Yeah.
Just like checking in.
Yeah.
A genuine check-in.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Liz. That's something that you're amazing at. But I'm just want to throw it out in addition to everything you said, is that you don't have to do anything. Like I just want to give you permission. If you needed somebody to tell them, use my full government name, tell them that she said that I needed to rest. Okay. We need the rest. And if you're not a person who's tired or feeling like you are depleting or empty, then please check in with somebody who has multiple roles or have to show up in the space constantly. Check on your executives, check on your family members who are caregiving. But more importantly, think about those people who are your friends, who you assume that are strong and they good, that thing. Check on your strong friends. Check on those coworkers who are the go-to all the time, our admins, all those people, right? That's typically holding a piece of something up. Family, friends, work, other. Check on them. And don't do it genuinely. To Liz's point, coffee is our thing. We like coffee, so things over coffee is always feel good. But whatever you need to do, meet them where they are. And I think we just need to be cognizant. And D&I practitioners, HR practitioners, the world is spending, and it's been spending for years now. Like, just I don't know when your spend started, but the spin has been spinning. So I need you to realize that it's always going to be something going on. You do not have to always or be reactive. You can always take your time and be proactive. But a part of that is making sure you rest, use your network, use your community, and just know you're not alone, right? Fatigue is happening to all of us. We just are talking about it and experiencing it sometimes in different ways, but take the time.
Absolutely.
All right, Liz,
Yeah.
I know we have a guest because I can't wait. I don't know about you, but you do your part. And
I cannot wait
to hold it together. I'm holding it.
I'm so glad that when we come back, when we take our long breaks and we come back, we always are invigorated with like these amazing guests. And this guest is no exception. Um, we did not know each other before the podcast, but we, as y'all know, we typically have our discovery calls, and it was like an instant connection. Instant. And always say this, I'm like, I need to record our discovery calls, but also they're very precious to me. They're very like, there's something very beautiful. And I journal a lot after our discovery calls, because I always learn so much. This individual that I'll properly introduce in a little bit really is what really she brought up was the culture intelligence. And so that's her specialty. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. But it had me really think about what cultural intelligence is. And then I got into like culture humility, and more like we are, as we've mentioned this so much, like we are a global world, right? We are all connected in some way. And also, we're also experiencing shifts, huge shifts, either because of major like environmental catastrophes, social unrest. People are just moving about the cabin, the world. And so and more companies are very global. And what kind of ideals are we pushing on to other countries? We had a guest early on, and we talked about cultural collaboration, versus using a very Western centric approach to doing business. Right now you're thinking about it more of a collaboration. How are we collaborating together in this same kind of goal? So I want to bring in Loren Rosario-Maldonado onto the camera. She wants to turn her camera on. Loren from Cultura. Woo!
Yay!
We are so excited to have you, Loren.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Shara. And I want to take a moment to appreciate your first part of your segment, which was to check in. We don't talk about that enough. We talked about it offline amongst ourselves, and my brain went elsewhere when I woke up this morning. It hasn't really shown up again. And allowing us space to really check in on how tired we are. It is the fourth quarter, and it's, everyone in the world is going through something. There's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of exhaustion. And you mentioned, checking in. You held my space so well today, because I spoke to my daughter this morning, and she's like, Mom, what's going on? You don't sound like your usual, chatty self. I said, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm running on fumes, been traveling for 4 weeks. And honestly, today it's caught on to me. And I appreciate you right now, but I am just plain old exhausted. To the point of, some mild depression going on there. And, she says to me, well, what can I do for you? And that was it. That was enough, right? To just ask me that question and hold my space. And I said to her, just listening to me talk about it, right? I don't need you to solve it or fix me. Just having a space to talk about it was absolutely cathartic. And so I appreciate you both, Liz and Shar, for that.
Loren, you know what? Thank you so much for like being so vulnerable and sharing that with us, because we really like to honor our guests and meet them where they're at, because they always give us the platform to meet us where we're at, and our listeners do that too, and to share that and to hear that from someone, because we constantly tell our listeners, like, people are tired, or we're in organizations, we're like, people are tired, like, this is why this is happening. So for you to come on and really share your vulnerability and your story and kind of confirm that and saying like, yeah, we are tired. I am tired. And thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No, absolutely. I think that we, above and beyond DEI, as humans, as professionals, as caregivers, both professionally and personally, we don't really talk about our own exhaustion. We're always there for someone else in some capacity, but really, we don't really take the time to give ourselves the grace of owning what it is that we're feeling, whatever vulnerability comes. So important to this work. It's so important for us to really take a look in the mirror and acknowledge the exhaustion, acknowledge the pain, right? Because it's only through that pain that we can then go outward and meet others where they are.
Ooh, let me take a moment. Let me take a moment because that really, oh, woo, thank you, Loren. That really, okay, I just need a moment.
You can do it. We gonna
You
stay
do you. We're here
You're
for
right
you.
here. You're
Thank
right
you.
here.
So I think I've shared in our show that, you know, I lost my dad many years ago. I've never dealt with the pain of losing my dad. So this year, my kids really wanted to learn, because our discovery call really prompted like the cultural side of it. So I was like YouTubing things, I was reading, I have books, like I have all sorts of things. So thank you for that. And in that I learned about like cultural humility and really like purposely, intentionally learning about not just one owns culture, but other people's culture, so that they can then be welcomed into different spaces, right? And so we started off with, you know, I'm first generation Mexican American from the US, now living in the UK. And I wanted to know more. My children are, you know, they're here in the UK, and they're very young and being raised here. And they really want to hold on to their culture, their Mexican roots. So my older son, really wanted to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. So Day of the Dead. So we've been learning about Day of the Dead. It wasn't something living in the U.S. that we celebrated that very much.
Mhm.
It's definitely, I think, with Coco and all the different movies, the Book of Life, that is definitely coming more onto the eye of the public on what Dia de los Muertos is. So we started celebrating this, and we set up a ofrenda for my father. Right, he passed on, and we had an onion and a baseball and like all that stuff. And I think what it prompted me is that I've never in all these years have dealt with the pain. And I don't think I've ever reconciled that experience. I kind of I shoved it way in the back, and I never dealt with it. And I think when we openly deal with hard things and adversity and painful moments, like you said, it really helps us to then show up better and stronger in different places. And sometimes it's not even better or stronger. Sometimes it's just like more vulnerable, more like relatable and human. And no, I'm not a robot. I can't just push that big pain, you know, out. And so many things came flooding down as you said that. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Loren. That's not even what we were talking about today, but definitely thank you for that moment.
No,
Sorry,
you're
Cher,
welcome.
I made
It's
you cry
actually
too.
related. Yeah, it's related, you know, and part of what you're talking about is cultural in and of itself. Some cultures, you know, emphasize de eso no se habla, where, you know, these little, I call them coupons, they collect in the back of your mind. And one day you have this blowout sale where all these little coupons just come out, and you're like, okay, well, what's happening? What am I buying right now? I can't tell what I'm buying. And to your point, we are so conditioned not to talk about pain, not to be uncomfortable, but growth is uncomfortable. The pain is of growing is uncomfortable. They don't call them growing pains for nothing. So it's great that you're helping your kids honor that part of their culture and using that as a way to connect them to the past, present, future, while also giving yourself the space you need to heal and to reconcile with your father's passing.
Yeah. I think that so for y'all not watching the YouTube, I got the tears was flowing while they was talking, because it's just, catharsis looks like that. I'm smiling because I am still happy, but catharsis is my body is, tears are coming out and my body's just releasing whatever that is, right? Either love for my friend as she talked about a difficult conversation, or the fact Loren very confidently talked about depression, which is something that is typically shunned away from. Like, those things are really showing up real present in my body in the moment. And I'm just proud, right? Because it has taken us so long to talk about the imperfect parts of us. And Loren, our conversation from our discovery call, when you so strongly said, I am whole, I'm reflecting back on that. And I was like, yeah, in that moment, I was 100% whole. I was so fine with being in service and being in service for others. But as I think about that time when we talk versus now, and the level of depletion and the lack of wholeness that I have because the energy isn't there, right? The person is there, but the pieces are so faded because I've used all the energy in places that wasn't for me. And it's not the bad thing, right? Like, we are here to have interconnected experience in our lives, and we are here to be of service, but we don't talk about when we're not whole. And now I'm so happy. Like, that's the reflection that I wanted to at least offer. And I also just wanted to share with our listeners, like, what we had talked about in our discovery call, because it was really about that particular phrase, like, I am whole, being in service and in service with others. So I did want to reflect on that, but I do want to ask a question, which is more about, like, as you reflect on that statement that you said, I am whole, and what it means to you, I wanted to just know, how are you feeling in this moment? How different is that space? And what do you want people to recognize right now that you have to offer them, that's just as that you need, and also that what you want to provide in this moment? Because I think a lot of times we just do. We don't acknowledge and say, no. Here's my boundaries. Here's what I have. This is what I want to offer. And I think also on the receiving end, when I see somebody who is, not whole or not feeling 100% themselves, I mean, you jump right into what you think may make them feel comfortable from your purview, not from what they need. So I just wanted to offer some space for us to just show up vulnerably, if you would be open to that.
100,000 quadrillion%, because that was a Lorenism. I am whole. I am whole. All parts of me are here. And this morning, before I talked to my daughter, I was thinking that I'm whole. I'm going through this physical exhaustion and mild depression, and has nothing to do with how whole I am. It is that all of the pieces of me are still there, and some are just depleted. But I am whole, and it's not a deficit. Acknowledging that, I'm having this weird depression in the peak of all things milestones coming to fruition, yet I am physically, mentally, spiritually depleted. But I'm still whole. I need to honor that. I need to honor that that is me. I am multidimensional, and this is where I am. This is where I am today. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's move on. Well, what's here? Okay, give it to me. Fine. That's it. I feel like crap. I'm exhausted. Slept 9 hours. Was not enough. and I'm ready.
I think, Lauren, thank you for sharing that, because I think I think we often forget that you can have both, that you can, like you said, I'm in the midst of all the things that I've been working on that are coming to fruition. They are coming real. Everything that I prayed for, everything that I worked for, it's here. Yet I'm also exhausted. I'm also depleted. I'm also in this moment in time where I'm grieving something, and I think that depression and the comes from that grieving side. Like, it's not often like what you've lost or something, but maybe it's like, now I'm having to, like, I've worked so hard and let that like life go that you've worked so hard, and it's like moving on to the next. And sometimes we're so quick to just move to the next thing as opposed to sit there and really acknowledge that. So I really appreciate that, how you, because I'm definitely not one of those people that sits. As you can see, like, my father passed a long time ago, and I'm not one person who sits.
Neither am I. It takes work. It takes work, right? It's a daily commitment to yourself, to me. And in coactive coaching, one of the aspects that forms a life is process, right? You have balance, you have fulfillment, but then you have process. And process is about these moments when you're not going forward, you're not moving backwards, you just are. And you're in the midst of all this caca, and just, it feels like crap, and you don't want to deal with it, but it's here. And so you're processing, right? You're like simmering. It's like those dishes that take a while because they need you to sit there and like literally stir until you're gonna die in that moment. But what comes out is absolutely delicious. And that's process. We don't take enough time to accept that about ourselves and about these moments, whether it's culturally conditioned, or we are following someone else, or it's a bad habit, whatever it is. We need to take time to actually sit in it in order to move forward.
I don't like it, Loren. I don't like it. I'm sorry, y'all. I love y'all. Y'all know it, but I gotta like it.
Process. No, she doesn't like it, Lauren. She doesn't.
Process. I'm telling y'all right now.
She goes away from my text.
My armpits is hot. My eyebrows is getting hot. I'm so over it, y'all. Y'all sit here, said that magic word 3 more times. I felt like it was about to just sprout up. I'm telling y'all, this is the part, and for those who know me, know this. I'm either going forward or I'm planning to go get it. That's it. That's it. The processing is the hardest part for me. I can do it with other people, but I cannot, when it's me, like you said something, I commit to myself. I'm going to use that phrase because I need to say that before I start talking about processing. It is hard. Liz is one of those people, and I have one more other friend who's really good at like really challenging me to process. Like I have a good network of people who have been trying to like really be advocates and stand in that space, but I don't enjoy it because the problem is I don't know when it's going to end. And for some reason, time and like I've not, as a person who's grown up in single family homes or multi-generational homes, or even having a level of independence like after school and college, you just don't have the time to just sit in something because there's either something to do or you're planning to do. And it's honestly felt very selfish to sit in the moment and just be thinking about yourself and something that is important to you versus in service of others or doing your part as a team. And so I fight this all the time. But I encourage it with others all the time, and I stand in the space. This is the part I'm with you. I can't. It is this part. Every time people say process, but I will just let y'all know I'm recovering because I have been telling people recently, I'm like, I just need a moment so that I could process this. And I'll be honest with you, it feels naked saying that. I mean, like absolutely unclothed, because I'm known for moving quickly and sharply and connecting the dots and being in the moment. But y'all kept saying it,
and being there for everyone, and being there for everybody. Yeah. Even in our workspace. I mean, the reason why, and I'm just going to make an assumption here of Loren, but I definitely know from a sharer perspective, the reason why we became, consultants and coaches in this space is because we are in service of others. And we carry that culturally, we carry that in our family and our friends, we carry that in organizations, with our clients. And I think, and I'm proud of you, Sharon. I'm also proud of you too, Loren, like just for having your boundaries and really setting them. And as uncomfortable as we are, because I definitely am uncomfortable, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not in line with the way I am. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what if they don't like me anymore? Like, oh gosh. And my mind immediately goes to, negative. It's like, I'm losing everything. I'm like, nobody's going to want to work with me anymore. But also, nobody's going to want to work with me if I'm exhausted and not taking care of myself and not showing up, in a way that I am proud of. I think, Sherry, you said something so powerful to Loren before we started the show. It's like, it's all right if we don't, and we're not going through our normal like format here. It's okay. Like whatever you want to share, whatever, at the end of the day, you have to be proud of what you're producing. So great way to start a Friday, y'all. But I do want to circle back though, if we can, because it is a way. I do circle back. I use that word, or like anyways, I use it. So I do want to circle back about, because this is more of like an introduction of you and you as a person and who you are. I'm going to put all in, and when we promote this episode, we're going to put in, all your qualifications and who you are and how you work. But we really want to know, who is Loren? Like what? And we use the diversity wheel to for our guests to tell us, like, who are you? What are those dimensions on that wheel that really resonate with you in this very moment?
Oh, that could be a loaded question, because the answer changes as the day progresses, doesn't it? I think that today all dimensions fell into one space, and for me that was physical. Because I'm also neurodivergent, exhaustion plays a big role in my ability to focus. And another primary reason why I take it so seriously, it's, my ADD today was like, and then my brain ran away and my ADD was like, come back. So if you were to ask me, my number one identity taking over for the day is my mental and physical ability. And plus, there is such a thing called aging. And even though my brain is 20, my body seems to want to age faster than my brain. So they're having a hard time communicating. But, another top of mind topic for me is family. We're taking some time to just be together. And so I'm excited about that. And, we talked about this before. I have a love-hate relationship with the dimensions of diversity, because it's so easy to box ourselves into those different types of dimensions, not understanding how they influence each other, and they're intertwined, right? No two are similar, and no two hold the same space in how we show up every day. Even today, there's other aspects, like my occupation. People are after me for, about different things, and my head is just like, I don't think so. I don't think so. But that's where I'm at today.
I'll be honest with you. I'm so glad you said it. It's the dimensions have changed. Like, I'll be honest with you, more so than ever. They move and I feel like there's just been like external world pressure that moves them. I feel like it's so many things that typically didn't have so much control in previous instances. And maybe it's because we do consulting, but I mean, it seems like it can just turn that spin. You have to constantly be thinking about the dimension that is important to you. In the past, it'd be so easy. These are the ones I lead with all the time. Boom, bow, right? But then it's more like it really does depend on what it is that I'm choosing for me versus how I'm serving other people. And I did not know when it happened. I don't know when it happened, but you're absolutely right. It's like I look at that wheel all the time and it starts to blur. It was so clear. It just can blur. And sometimes it's by the morning, it's one way, and by the afternoon, it's another. And completely normal.
Yes, of course, because that's life, right? Life is fluid. We are fluid. We're multidimensional, and you're right. Some situations call for you to summon some aspects of your identity more than others, and so it's definitely situational, and it depends in the moment.
I do have a question though. So one thing when we were talking about our dimensions of diversity. I mean, and when we were talking about the diversity wheel, and then you started to bring up like your book, Becoming the Change and the Power of Cultural Intelligence, there was a way in which you really describe the personal growth and like how we see the world and how it plays together. I think it's so relevant for our listeners to hear a little bit about that. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about that? Because I think it really does go into the blur of the wheel and the power that we probably need to summon to kind of navigate it in this moment. So I don't want to be selfish because we had a great conversation about that.
No, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because one thing we don't talk about enough is how our cultural values influence how we think, how we behave, and how we show up in the world. They intertwine or are embedded, if you will, in these dimensions of diversity. So the book is really about my experience and how I came into cultural intelligence and how little I understood about not just cultural values, but my own ancestry, my own heritage, and how they influence everything that I believed in, that I perceived. And I went through a very painful, process-driven period in my life where I had to go inward and understand my culture, my cultural values, my beliefs, and question a lot of them. Cultural intelligence in and of itself is a framework that helps you understand and navigate differences, primarily cultural differences. And so the cultural values component of that provides you with an understanding of, how you prefer to be in the world across the 10 dimensions that the cultural intelligence model highlights, and gain some understanding about what areas of your life are influenced by those values and how they play out when you're interacting with others who are different from you. And what I found and what led to me writing this book is that through this cathartic moment in my life, I realized how powerful this tool can be for creating understanding above and beyond the workplace, but in our personal lives as well. I mean, it's led to some profound connections and discussions with my own family, with my mom, my father. And so it helped create this space where we could have these discussions using neutral language that helped us be vulnerable with each other in order to understand, right? It wasn't with the intention of changing one another or imposing our beliefs on one another. It really was just about understanding. And in the book, I highlight others who have done the same without even knowing what cultural intelligence, the term, the framework meant. And it's the power, because it is that powerful when you choose to use it, when you choose to not only immerse yourself, but to really use it as a tool to navigate differences. It can be that powerful.
I appreciate it, because I think that cultural intelligence has gotten such a academic or organizational kind of development reputation. And the intention of it is really at the basics of what you said. How can we connect with each other more deeply? Right? That's the intention. But it's gotten such a bad rap where it's like, yeah, we're in different time zones and we just know how to work with each other. Like, nah, it's deeper than that. It's deeper. It's about the person, their experiences, and their lived experiences, their goals, their aspirations. It's the wholeness that you were talking about, how they serve others, what's their purpose, and how do you seek to understand it? And I do want to appreciate, and I did not think about it in this way, there are some relationships that I struggle with in my personal life or have historically that I never thought about using cultural intelligence specifically in that way to have conversations that are typically different, like typically difficult, because where me and that other person has started seemingly is so different. But when I thought, when you just said that, something just really opened up at me. Like, look, I've been bawling this whole call, right? The tears are just streaming down. We're going to ignore that Shara just literally has been wiping tears away. And it's because that's my body letting something out. And that's less about the fact I can't even tell you what it all is. It's like a single word, boom, boom, boom. Okay. But I thank you for that, because once again, even I, who use this curriculum, use these terms, use this information, once again, going back to what you said, I commit to myself. I commit to myself to do the work that I'm willing to do for other people. And that just hit me hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even, I think, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Loren. Go ahead.
No, one of the things that I want to emphasize, and I allude to in the book, maybe not as explicitly, is that there's a misconception that culture is about ethnicity, national origin, and race. But if we think about the word culture in and of itself, it really represents the way that a group of similar people or aspects behave and act and believe, right? And so when we think about culture, yes, it's easy to think about it in a global scale, right? In the workplace, having to do with, for example, multinational corporations, large multinational corporations, but local is the new global, right? And we have all this technology that helps us connect with people from all over the world in our own backyard. Our family construct is a culture in and of itself. Departments are cultures within an organizational culture, right? We have societal communities that also have their own culture, whether it's, religious groups or, churches or all types of museums, right? There are all these aspects of society that have their own culture and they have their own language. So this framework helps you navigate the differences within those cultures as well. That it's not just for the workplace, it's also for us in our personal life. We may interact with someone who at the supermarket we will interact with 5 people, and they are all completely different, representing 5 different cultures.
Loren, one of the words that you used earlier was cathartic. You mentioned that as you were writing this book, that there was a catharticness on it, especially as it relates to you and your parents. And one of the things that I really learned after you and I talked, after we had our discovery call, and I was researching this topic, and in more sense of disrupting my at the moment understanding of what culture is, right? So I was seeing it from a global organizational standpoint. I had never related it, to Shara's point, back to my own personal relationships. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned, and it disrupted my own assumptions and biases and stereotypes that I have formed, not just in people from other cultures, but even within my own family and friends. And it really clicked in like a curiosity, especially towards my mother. And I think you mentioned that as well. And I'm just curious because I know what it did for me. I'm curious to know, like, if you were willing to share that, like, what was that moment? Like, what was that experience that you had with your parents?
Yeah, because I went back and did the work, painful work, I understood that a lot of my mom's, and I use my mom particularly because we've always had a very contentious relationship because we have very different beliefs in values, if you will. But understanding more about the history and my ancestry helped me understand how she arrived at those beliefs, how she arrived at those cultural values, and why, and how mine were shaped by my upbringing and where I was raised. I was raised across the United States. She spent her formative years in Dominican Republic during a very tumultuous time. So a lot of her cultural beliefs were shaped by those times. She comes from a different generation where, you don't do this, you don't do that. And, and especially as a Latina woman, oh boy, it was a very, very rough time. And so I didn't understand that growing up until I did this work. And once I understood where her beliefs are rooted for what shaped them, then I could have a less emotionally loaded conversation with her. Okay. Because she comes from that generation where, parents are seen as the authority, and you don't question, and you don't challenge, you just follow. But my upbringing taught me otherwise, right? It was almost like this dichotomous experience where at home, yes, I was taught that. But when I went to school and when I was immersed in society, it was very empowering and very, very transparent, right? And so growing up, I didn't know necessarily how to reconcile these two worlds until I came across cultural intelligence. And in speaking with her more recently, when she makes comments, I'll use one simple reference. I love bachata. It is a Dominican genre of music. That's like my number one music, getting your groove genre. And she hates bachata. When I tell you she always said that was a lower class, music. That was for low class people. And I remember thinking, like, you're such a snob. Like, what? Why would you think that's, again, I did not understand how she arrived at this conclusion. And recently she came and surprised me for for my 50th birthday. And guess where I take everyone to my favorite bachata place, right? And she has her face, and I'm like, come on, mommy, come on, come on. And she's like, I said, listen, whatever it is, it's not personal. Okay? Let's just dance. Forget about everything else. She's like, okay. And she was dancing. And I attribute this to cultural intelligence because had I not understood the history behind why she arrived at that conclusion, right? That bachata for her generation was a low-class music. It was sort of country music for country folk and had nothing to do or no place in mainstream society. Then that conversation would have been different. I would have like, oh, you're such a snob. Like, fine, don't dance with her, whatever, right? But yet I came at her from a place of understanding. I didn't change her. I didn't devalue what she believes. I acknowledged it. Oh, right. But one dance, for me. I wasn't invalidating her lived experience. I was inviting her to share mine. And that in and of itself is powerful. And that's just one little example about all of the different conversations that we've had.
I love that so much because that's such a beautiful analogy to, and it's a beautiful story, right? And to show it's like I'm inviting you to experience this. And I'm acknowledging it's like two things can be true. You can still have your experience, yet I'm also inviting you to maybe experience my own life here and the things that I want. I think that's and kudos to your mom too for going, yeah, to go and dance with you because you're my daughter. Like, think about the bravery and that's one thing that what came up for me as I started learning about culture with my own mother too. I started appreciating the bravery of my mother for having to disrupt so many of her thinkings and her own experiences, and to not just acknowledge, again, going back to acknowledging the pain and acknowledging adversity and acknowledging the experience, regardless of how difficult they were. Because some experiences are they were so difficult that she doesn't want to remember them anymore. But 100%. And she had to really face them head on, face to face. This is gonna be hard. And so for me, what came up with me is it humanized my mom, because for such a long time I thought my mom was a robot.
Yes, me too. Robot. Oh my gosh. I was no emotions, no feelings.
And it really humanized her. And I said, oh, and it gave me, how do I want to say it? Not the permission, but I guess it gave her the permission in my space. Because I created this space for her that was more inviting, to your point, right? Mom, come and experience my life. Come and experience here. Let me honor your experiences. It almost I saw, it was this invisible weight off her shoulders that came off. And ever since then, and I know the moment, ever since then, our conversations are so deep now. I hear about all the history and the story. So I just started recording every single one of them, because she, in the 39 years that I've been alive in this world, never shared anything. She's always cerrado.
You have to pick it out of them. Yes. De eso no se habla. Yes, no? I know. Which to those who don't speak Spanish, it means we don't talk about those things. And that's a big cultural phenomenon, especially for us and our families. And you're right, because if you notice, and it sounds like you did the same, we didn't come from a place of judgment. right? Which they're accustomed to experiencing their entire life. And I'm talking about that generation, right? Especially for immigrants. I mean, they've had to thrive in the midst of judgment, in the midst of being forced to assimilate, right? Now it's trendy to be authentically present and wear your heritage on your sleeve and represent it proudly. That was not true for that generation.
Yeah.
And understanding that helped me appreciate her and my father's bravery, to your point, even more. You know, they went through all of that for us to have this opportunity. So how can I judge that?
Yeah.
How can I sit here and, and see that in any negative light? They did what they could with what they knew, what they learned, what they had.
Yeah. It's interesting. I agree. The amount of empathy in this particular journey, as close as it is in my personal life and in our personal lives, it takes a lot of empathy and a lot of those moments of just trying to seek to understand. I find at times that it's the hardest when it's the person that you have the most closeness and love that you either aspire to have or you have for them. Those are you love everybody, right? You love your family, but there's some instances where the desire and that connection is so strong and so delicate and so important, right, to who you are. I just sit here and I think about, and it's always been something that I always ask myself, like, how is it that a person who has so many constraints, so much judgment, so many tight ropes to walk, could just have a person like me, like created a person who just like, listen, hello world, I came here and I'm disrupting everything, and that I'm not doing any of this or any of that. And I've always wondered that, right? Like before I took CDI, our coaching certification, it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't understand. How could you make this? But it is the obvious question, which is the judgment that you took, that you remove, you set aside, the disempowerment that you felt during your time, you set aside, and you gave and you instilled and embedded all the things you did not have so that I and others, right, can have a different experience in this world. Yeah. It is absolutely insane to think about how much change, even in their life, that has happened to them, and the amount of change that's happened in our life, that they came out of that with an abundant mindset. And so I still sit in that, like, not processing, because I'm not giving y'all that, but just sitting in it, okay, and just thinking about, how can you give that and offer? How can I give that, right? I have an abundant mindset. How can I make sure that the generations or the people I touch get whatever that is that they're going to need for generational to sustain them for what's next for them? It's one of those things I think has to be studied, because
but Shara, you're doing it already though. Like in your work that you do with kids, you're doing that. You're like, I always call it, like, you're breaking those generational experiences.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, like it does blow my mind, like, that my mom still at her age right now, like, despite all those things that she experienced, did not waver her at all. She pushed forward and she says, I am going to make it. That's regardless whether you want, because at the end of the day, our saying is like, van a hablar, right? They're gonna talk. They're gonna talk good or bad about us. You might as well succeed and be successful and do the things that you want to do, right? You're already doing that, Shara. Like, you're already doing that stepping stone, that that in like your own experiences, right? You're like, okay, I know that I already experienced this. I know that these are my past experiences, but I want to be better, or I want to be different. I want to start a new cycle of something and you disrupt those cycles. And so like I think you should be so proud of yourself for that.
Absolutely. And know that you are because your mom was.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what they want for us. We are starkly different because this is what they wanted for us. They wanted us to do better, be better. Not for us to be exact copies. Otherwise, they would have stayed wherever they were and remained the same.
Yeah.
So I invite you to challenge that next time, right? In relating to your mom or anyone who you feel like, how can I X because they are Y? No, I am X because they are Y.
First of all, y'all not gonna get I'm not paying y'all for this good old coaching. And I just want to let y'all know this gotta be free because I didn't sign up
It is free, my love. It is free.
I can't give y'all nothing. I can't give y'all nothing. I'm telling y'all over here breaking through on something, and I don't know, the floodgates of the tears. I didn't even know I was dehydrated for today. Like it's been nonstop. The flow, the falls of the tears. I needed this so much, and I make laughter is just one of those things to give it a little love and break. That's how my family is. So laughter is our way of loving each other. So that means something here today. But I feel like I'm so glad this conversation came at this time because this is that restoration that we don't talk about, right? Like, and I'm glad it naturally and organically happened. Because just so y'all know, listeners, we ain't got to none of the questions that we was trying to talk about. But I will say that I know that this is what, for sure, I know I needed this because my body's responding before my brain can actually, if I'm gonna use the P word, process it. But I do say that I want people to hear, and I'm glad they got to hear the power of just being in the space and connected with 2 other people today. Like if that's all you're going to make, just make the most of it and have an authentic conversation and that's vulnerable. And you're not trying to solve nothing. You're just showing up equally with each other. And so if that's all you can, if all you can give and all you can create is an experience for that, I hope it's restoring you as it is for me. Right. And for all, if that's happening to the both of y'all, I hope it for everybody, but I'm glad we got to practice and model it. Just in the moment.
And there's nothing stopping from taking this practice into the workplace, right? I mean, we haven't gotten to that and we probably won't because we're just in this moment. But like we did talk about how there is a loneliness epidemic. People are exhausted. And I would challenge, like, take that judgment-free zone into as a leader in your organization, and how do you apply it to your employees? How do you apply it to your colleagues, to the people sitting across from you? How powerful would it be to show that empathy and compassion and intent to understand? Like saying, you know what, like, I get it. You're exhausted. I'm exhausted. Like, what do you need today? How can I meet you where you need me to be today?
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because look, I've been there where the business demands, they have the capacity for making you less human sometimes because they're coming at you all day, every day, all day, every day. But the minute I started applying this at work too, I was less judgmental and more human for it. I actually took more time to connect with the individual than business itself, which then turned into, it improved business outcomes anyway, because people felt seen. And before I incorporated this into my life, my work, my journey, before 5 years ago, yes, I did that. I served others. I was there. I felt like I could, hold space for my team and for people, but not in the way that they needed to feel seen and heard. And this helped me be, I know empathy is used as a cliche many times, or as a broad term for all of this, but really it made me a better human. And sometimes if things were not done in the way that I was expecting, or the business was expecting, then I would communicate with the human as a human.
I love that. So my final question, Loren, that I put that right in there because, and I think it's going to just round this topic together. What brings you joy?
Going inward in nature. That is my number one. I enjoy other things, but that's what feeds my soul. Walking on the sand, feeling the sand in my hand, my feet, feeling the water at the beach, listening to the waves, just feeling the sea salt air like touch my skin when I'm, walking on that's what connects me to my soul. That's what I call going inward. There's not enough journaling pages to feed my soul the way that does.
Yeah. Yeah. I always took it when Sharon came and visit me. We went walking so much. She was all covered up, but it's just like something gets you in the fresh air. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for this amazing episode. It's definitely something that we weren't anticipating and never is, but it was, like, to Shara's point, it's something that I didn't even know that I needed.
Amen.
So thank you for sharing yourself and your story with us. Yes, absolutely. And usually we kind of finish out the show with a little bit of a closing reflection, and I think go back and just listen to this episode bit by bit, because every 5 to 7 minutes, there was like this gem that Loren really, really dropped in there. I'm going to go back and listen to it so many times, and I'm going to journal after this, and I've grown so much from this. And I'd also really like to challenge people, like, what can you do as the year closes out? Because this episode will come out before the end of the year. What can you do as you enter this season of, for some people it's hibernation, for some people double down and they really get to setting their goals and intentions before the end of the year. What can you do to have restoration in yourself and in others? And how are you checking in to yourself and to others? And are you showing up the way you want to show up in different spaces? So, Loren, would you like to share a little bit of a reflection?
I would say my reflection is to show up every day with that intentional commitment. This, and I mean this work, the work we do, the work everyone is doing in some capacity in this world, is a journey. And that requires daily check-ins with yourself. There is an essence of humility in that, we do what we do. We're not experts. We're facilitating this in our work. And that takes intention, it takes commitment, and it takes critical self-awareness, critical self-evaluation. Day in, day out. And the next day you learn a little bit more, you share it and you pay it forward. But that's the work.
Yeah, I have so many reflections, but to sum them all up is drink a lot of water. No, I'm just kidding. Because the tears have been flowing. I would say it still resonates with me so strongly is I don't know the last time I've committed something to myself. And I'm going to spend some time with that because I literally was listening to you. I love water, and I'm thinking about like how intentional am I to make sure those are things that I get to enjoy. I fill up with my family. I fill up when I'm with my friends, and I've never made commitments other than to like honor my 93-year-old granddad and making sure that if he call or he say you need to that he want to see me, it's done and deal is done, right? But I have not made commitments to myself. And though I've done things for myself that's been important, I've never committed in that way. I've never said it out loud. I never put it on a vision board that this is what I'm going to do for just me. So I'm taking that away today. I'm taking that away along with I am whole and really spending some time with that, because I think that in the shift of, to your point, we are having these fatigue moments and some of our biggest life achievements and milestones and feeling at your most highest points. But what is my commitment to myself? And so that I can stay focused on that when moments like this show up, that's so unexpected. And I just know that I owe myself that, because I would give it to anybody else. So I'm taking that with me.
I love that, Sharon. Thank you. Thank you, Loren, so much for honoring us with your presence, with your story, with everything. For all of our listeners, we're back. So go check us out at morethanwordspodcast.com. Sign up for Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. It will be populated everywhere. So go check us out. All right, y'all. See y'all later.